Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me for this introduction to Seneca and our online learning platform. I've started just a moment or two early, so I'm just going to ask you to drop your name into the comments and say hi, and just put a yes if you can hear me loud and clear. So just say again, just pop a yes if you can hear me loud and clear within the comments. Feel free to drop your name and where you're watching from. As I go through this presentation this morning, do of course let me know if you've got any questions. I'll take moments every now and again to pick those questions up, drag them onto screen and share them through. It might be though that your question is going to form part of the natural flow. So don't worry if I don't pick it up straight away. It may be something that we'll be coming to as we progress through today's presentation of Seneca and our online learning platform for your pupils. Fantastic, brilliant. I can see that I can be heard loud and clear. So I'm going to dive in. I'm not going to presume where you are with your usage of Seneca. You might be a first-time user. You might have been using it as a class teacher or cross-department or indeed in a whole school function. So bear with me because I'll go through straight from, as you can see on my shared screen, the login process, and we'll look at the teacher dashboard and how you can create classes, how you can pull content and courses into your class, distribute elements of learning to your pupils as homework or dedicated pointed interventions. Look at how you can add pupils to your classes. There's no point in doing it if you're not sharing it with them. And we'll also take a look at the pupil access as well, so you can get a feel for what is it like as a student learning via Seneca. Okay, so as you can see, I've got my login here, and the thing that you should notice straight away is that we do offer the single sign-on. So it may be that you're a Teams or a Google Classroom school. Teachers and pupils can use their Google and Microsoft IDs to log in as a single point, rather than having to have pupils remember yet another password, which, if you're anything like me, is always the bane of my life, and I'm always clicking on this forgot your password. So I'm just going to log in with my Google. Now, because I'm just sharing the window, you're not going to see the pop-up, but you know what it looks like. Asks you to allocate the particular Google account you're wanting to use, validates, and takes you through. The first screen that you will see, this is the teacher profile. This is where your classrooms sit. So you'll see here that I've got 2 demo classes set up. I don't have any pupils in these classes. I will be showing you a dashboard that does have pupils, but for this first moment, it doesn't matter that we haven't got any students allocated. So I've got Mr. Clark Smith's class and I've got test class 2. Now, we find ourselves in that frantic period of September. Some of you may be on inset, some of you may be welcoming pupils back this week or in readiness for next week. If you've been using Seneca before, you might have last year's cohort of data there, and you're sort of in a bit of a quandary as to, okay, it's still valid insights into their previous learning and highlighting any gaps in their understanding, but I don't want to get rid of it. Well, you can archive classes. So I'm just going to show you how you can clear up your view. I'm deciding that test class 2, well, that was last term. So I'm going to archive that data. Always, are you sure? Yep. Students in the class will still be able to find and study assignments that have been set. You do not lose any of that insight or the allocation of assignments and work. So now you can see my profile here is looking a little less cluttered. Where has that class gone? Well, I'm just going to go to this drop down on the left-hand side. Here are my archived classes, and you can see I've got a range of classes that are hidden from view, but all the data is still there. So if I go into that test class 2, I can still see that I have a biology A-level preparation course saved there. If I'd set any assignments from that, those assignments too would still be available to you to view with the pupils' progress and scores, as well as within their platform. The pupils would be able to see it as well. If at any point you want to unarchive that class, It might have been a particular intervention group. You weren't sure of what that profile would look like in the new academic year, but indeed maybe it is those same pupils. You can bring that back from our archive into the live environment. So just by clicking here on the unarchived class. So you just click there and it would come back into view within my profile here. So how do you start building your content of learning and your curriculum schemes in order to share them with your pupils? I'm going to take us back and I'm going to start it from the beginning. We're going to start a new class. So I'm going to call this Biology 1, and we're going to call that 2021. So you'll see at any point within this setup flow, you have a nice reminder and prompts of what are those elements that you need to do to be able to ensure you're maximizing that workflow, maximizing the impact of Seneca. We've got a tick, we've created the class. Now we need to add the course content. And you'll see these tiles below will just work from left to right. So I'm going to add a course. Now, don't be put off, don't be daunted here. We have a lot of content. I'm sure most of you are joining from a free perspective. You'll see there is a slight difference in availability of content, but you still have swathes of content here. And there are two ways in which you can make that manageable. You can either search up at the top. So I'm a biology teacher. I'm just going to freeform search, and this will bring up all the biology content. And you can see we've now gone down to 65 topics. That's maybe still a little bit too much to go through. So I'm actually going to filter that, and I'm going to designate it that actually I'm interested in GCSE content, biology. And you'll see now at each point that range of content gets narrower. So I've got 23 courses. If you wanted to, we do, of course, draw our content from specialists within all the major examination bodies, so AQA, EdXL, etc. And you'll see for some as well, we do include the International Baccalaureate as well. And this is course content that is devised by leading examiners within their field so that you can be confident that it's actually aligned with the latest curriculum guidelines for your pupils. So now I've narrowed that down to the field of study that I'm looking for, GCSE biology, and I'm going to say that actually I'm going to be looking for the EdXL content. So we're starting in September. I'm going to take a foundation course. I'm also going to put a higher there because these are tougher questions that you can use for your talented and gifted pupils so that you can use them to stretch as additional homework or out of lesson interventions. I've added those two courses. You can see those here on my course profile. I'm now going to come across and explore and assign that content. So click on Add Assignment, and you'll see here we've got grayed out at the moment those two course contents that I've pulled into my class. I'm going to choose the foundation element, and it slides across. And this is the full content of that particular foundation course. So you'll see as you move up and down the page, I've got 9 chapters there, or 9 units. Now, I could be really unfair and I could allocate all of it and say, right, children, I'm not quite ready for term. You just take these away and learn at your heart's content. But actually, that's particularly unfair. So I'm going to say, okay, in preparation for next week, I am going to ask you to work your way through half of our cell types topic. And for the sharp-eyed out there, you might have noticed that as I'm adding or removing these checkboxes for these individual chapters, you'll see that there is a time here. Now, that is the approximate time it will take a pupil to complete the assignment. You'll notice that there is a range here. Now, that's because the beauty of Seneca is that no two learning pathways are the same. We have a smart algorithm that looks to build up a profile of that individual student. So looking at their strengths and weaknesses, where do they have gaps in their knowledge? And each pupil will therefore be allocated an individualized, differentiated learning path that can include interleaving, recursive approach to that content for that unit to ensure that we're maximizing their opportunity for success, which is why you'll see some pupils might take longer to complete the assignment versus others. Now, I think for week 1, we've got 25 minutes of homework there. I think that's a pretty good starting point. So I'm going to click this assign button. But before I do that, I will just say you don't have to start at the beginning. It may be that you're partway through a unit and you can open up any one of these. They're not locked down. You don't have to work through them in numerical order. It could be that actually what you're looking to do is focus on homeostasis, so you can come in and allocate these particular units. Just for case of this demonstration, I'm starting at the top of the unit with cell types. I'm going to assign that to my class, and I'm going to create an assignment. Week 1 homework. And what you'll notice here, once you've created that assignment name, the homework is always allocated by default from today's date. Now you've got free reign any date forward from the date that you're creating that assignment. There is, of course, no need to be able to post date it. So it could be that you're working over the weekend, looking to ensure that you've got the next term's homework created. You can set those start dates from any time hence. You'll see that the default is a week. Our recommendation is that to ensure that there is that optimal learning curve, to battle against obviously the alternative, which is that forgetting curve, is that it's a week or fortnightly schedule for homework and assignments through Seneca. So you'll see that the due date is a week from today. I'm going to leave it as such, and I'm going to create that task. So that is now set within your class as a link to the assignment. How do you get it to your children though? Well, we've got a number of means. If you're Google Classroom, just simply click here, and that will then take you with that single sign-on into your Google Classroom and disseminate that coursework with that particular associated class. It could be that you're using Teams as well. Same manifestation there. You are just going to click on Teams, use that single sign-on to link the two platforms and share it. Alternatively, you could open up your school email browser and send it to individual students. So it might be an intervention group that you're working with. It might be that you're wanting to share that link with a teaching assistant in preparation for their intervention. So you can email it through as well. Alternatively, you can just copy the link and send it through. This, though, I will say is quite often used if you're wanting to do, maybe it's an AFL task at the beginning of a unit. You could copy that link. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to pull it into a browser. It might be that you actually want to do this as a whole class activity. So I'm going to bring it up on my interactive board. I've just joined Biology 1, and you can then start this assignment and control it as the teacher, and you can work through that assignment as a whole class. So there are a number of ways that you can bring Seneca into your learning cadence. I'm going to close that and just head back to classes. We'll look more at the assignment tab in a moment, because we need to ensure that students are gaining access to their classroom. You can see as I opened up that link, I was immediately welcomed in. It recognized me. I've received that unique link, so I'm already part of the classroom. However, you can already invite them without any content, and it's the same mechanisms. Copy a link. You can go through the Google Classroom or Teams, but this is also very neat as well. You can give a particular class code. That's a unique code, and you can click the link here, and what that will do is give you these neat wallet-sized sort of QR codes, because Seneca works cross devices. So whether they are looking to follow that code via their phone, their tablet, their laptop at home, this gives them multiple means of access to that particular classroom. Just seen a question pop up here. Is there any way to see the questions that we are setting? Yes, you're absolutely right. We will look back at how you can preview that course content. So I'm going to look at my assignments. So here I am within week 1 homework. Now this would be your go-to. So you'd be able to start seeing these elements, how many pupils have completed the homework. Now, you might have a rigid homework policy, so you can see exactly how many are delivering that content late and how many are incomplete. And you can see for each of those sections that we included with the homework, you can see the average class score appearing and the individual pupil scores. Now, in terms of content and being able to ensure that you are giving the pupils the right material, you can, of course, preview that. So I'm just going to go back to our biology class, and I'm going to add an assignment. We're going to use that same course content, but we're going to look at enzymes. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to suggest that we give those 3 sections as homework. We'll see here in brackets, you can preview that content. So by clicking on that title, you can scroll through, and this is all the content that would be delivered to the student. But what they would do is they would work through it in bite-sized sections. So they would be given the carousel of knowledge, which they would work through. Then question 1 would appear. And you'll see as we go through this flow, the types of questions that we present to students. So here we have a missing word. Here we've got an annotation task, multiple choice, missing word again. And then here we've got sliders. So they've got to choose the correct, whether it's true or false statements. And don't forget, at any point, if there are questions regarding the style of the question that we presented, or indeed the content, you can always leave a feedback. So you can review that content and ensure that it is exactly matching what you're looking to deliver through the classroom experience. And indeed, we have videos as well from course experts who are presenting to the pupils as well. So that's a means of assessing that you've got the correct flow and content for your pupils. So I'm just going to jump into a second account. Don't worry about the mechanism. It's still the same view, but what I have here is I've actually got some pupil data. So I'm logging into this year 11 class, and you can see I've got courses set up here. So I've got a range of courses, but I want to have a look at some insights. So you can see when you click on your Insights tab on this left-hand nav, it will default to upcoming, so you can see exactly what homework you have set. So if I look here, I've got Biology Homework 2, which has been set to 31 students. I clicked on the 31 students, and that will bring up exactly those pupils who have completed the homework and historic scores. So you can start looking at actually what are their completion rates. So we can see here that Jacqueline Brackus, false name here, we're not putting any pupil information in the public domain. You can see here that Jacqueline has completed units 1, types of cell, and 2, the standard form, and has yet to go through and complete the further 3 units. The score data here, you've got control over what you see. So by using this drop-down menu here, you can look at what their most recent attempt was. You can see what the first attempt score was, and best score. Now, in this instance, there's not been too many attempts on these pieces of homework. But what this gives you, because we always recommend that teachers advise their pupils to keep continuing with that particular unit until they're getting over 90%, because that way they're revisiting the knowledge base. They're looking to ensure they're transferring that into their working memory. And what you can then see is their progress over time, looking at it from a first completion to the most recent completion. And you can see again what those topics are that they have the most struggle with. So you can then bring that into your classroom data and understanding for planning as to which units you might want to focus on within the classroom. Now, of course, we all know that SLT love a report. Everything can be pulled out via CSV so that data can be merged with whole school data. So it might be a pupil progress meeting, it might be a performance review. You can bring that data with you in a format that fits the school style. So that's from the assignment perspective. I can also look at insights from a whole class. So I'm going to choose from my drop down here, I'm going to look at this biology A-level section. I'm going to choose which sections I want. I want all the data for that particular unit. And in exactly the same format we saw, but for one assignment, I'm now going to load up data for that entire unit. And as you can see here as well, it's exactly the same format. So you're not having to relearn different data types and formats. It keeps it consistent as you move through the system. So slightly whistle stop there on the teacher profile. Any questions? Because what I'm going to do is then I'm going to move into the student platform so you can get a sense of what is it like as a learner to process through and to use Seneca. So I'm just going to take a moment and look at the comments as they come in. So do please, if you've got any questions about how you access Seneca, how you create a class or search for content, do take a moment and put that question up there, because if you're thinking it, I'm sure somebody else out there will be thinking it too. Really good question. I'm just going to bring KW Science's question up. How is it best to get parents signed up too? And we all know the power of parent advocacy. If we've got the parents on board within that sort of home learning agreement, you're going to get the best out of the pupil. And absolutely, Seneca operates on those three levels. You can have teacher access, pupil access, and parent access. And again, that's about that dialogue and discourse that you have with your parent and family community, because parents can log in as well as a parent, be associated to their learner, so they can keep an eye on what progress is being made. So again, it would be a case of that initial login moment. I'm just going to log out. I'm going to sign up. Oh. Let's just have a look at that view, Seneca Learning. So as a parent, I can sign up and I can monitor my child's learning. So I could log in with one of my own formats. So it might be that I've got a Gmail account as standard, or I might have an alternative personal email address. And that flow would direct you to be able to connect with that pupil code, so that as a parent, you can see the volume of work that's coming through. You can see the amount of effort that your child is putting in, and encourage them and play a role within their learning. So absolutely, you're quite right. It is always best to get the buy-in and understanding of parents whenever you're looking to enhance the learning journey. Another question, am I able to share the video? Absolutely. All you need to do, nice and easy, is just like the video on YouTube, and you'll be able to come back to it. We save a recording of these twice daily sessions, so you can absolutely come back to it. If needs be, I am live at midday and at 4 weekdays. So if you have colleagues who would be interested, either direct them to the video that you watched, or ask them to come in at a time that works for them, midday or 4 o'clock, and they can see the same content as well. Okay. There's a follow-up there. Sorry, how does it link to their child? What I'm going to do, because I don't know that, I've not seen, having joined Seneca on Wednesday, I'm still a new boy. So I'm going to take that down as a really good question. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just, I'll do it at the end as well. I'm going to leave you my contact details. I'm not going to ask you to put your contact details out on a public forum. So there is my email address. Should be landing on your screen any moment. And do please drop me a line. And what I'll do is I'll find out what that connection process is, so that the parent can see the pupil's progress. And I'll look to see if we can include that sort of connection flow within future sessions. That's a really good question. Thank you for that. Okay, so let's take a look at what is that student view. So I've jumped across, you can see in this bar here, back to teacher platform, I can see I'm looking at it now from a pupil's perspective. They would be directed to the homepage. This is their portal. So as you can see, what we do is we want to be as democratic and open as possible for learners. So they've got that same access to the course content that you do as a school. So it might be that you are using the free platform as a school, or indeed you might be interested in, or you might already be a premium school. If you're a premium school, your pupils would have that full access to over 1,100 course materials. So they could search freeform. It might be that actually they're sort of moving up year 9 to 10. They've made their choices. They might be a science pupil, but actually they're interested in developing their French spoken language. So they might think, well, actually, you know what, I'm going to partake in a French course. So that is completely open to them. They absolutely have that ability to progress their learning and investigate the world around them and develop themselves as learners. You will also always see those recent courses. Now, these are the ones that they have taken. So if I was to have taken that French course, I'm just going to add that to my portfolio of learning. And what I can do, I've got no assignments because this has been self allocated. My courses, and then home. So here what we have is all of those courses that are assigned by the teacher. So those that have been assigned, or indeed those that have been completed. We do have a promotional tile here so that there is an opportunity, an enhanced level to Seneca, so that we can direct for those pupils that require it more bespoke tutoring, not part of today's session. Clearly, what we want them to be able to do is not lose track of those current and live assignments. So we can see the very next due date is presented in front of them. So we can see here that we have a biology homework that is set for next week. And part of it has been completed. So you can see all those sections that the pupil has worked through and those elements that they have opted out of that they still need to come back to complete to ensure that that homework is designated as completed. But that's only the most recent. They can look at all upcoming assignments. So as we can see, we've got homework that's due on the 9th September, 10th, etc. So that is their home for where their homework is stored. And really nice and easy. They're not going to lose track of that. So we've looked at the homework. Here we have, in this middle dial, we've got what we call the memory palace. Now, this is our gamification. This is the way in which, beyond the intricacies and the personalization of learning and the very visual learning that we do, this is around creating that and engendering that level of competition and challenge for your students. So each time they complete a piece of homework, an assignment, any part of that learning process, they will be given a knowledge score, they will be given memory points, and they can complete and collect stickers for each of those assignments. So these stickers are all these wonderful global settings that they will then keep in their own scrapbook. And you can click on any one of these and you'll see that they are indeed their learning memories. If I click, oh, well, that, as Google says, is or snap. Let's have a look. Sorry, that's probably my internet dropping. So we were just looking at these tiles and I was saying you could click on those. So let's have a look. So Davos in Switzerland, I can see that's associated with the content on minerals. I'm going to click on that sticker and I would be able to pick up this piece of homework and complete it to a greater extent. I only got 7% on my best score. I've only got one memory strength on that. And how do I want to learn? Well, adaptive, I can follow that through and it will give me the questions and the content that is relevant to me as a learner. It might be, though, that I don't necessarily want to see what I've already seen before. So I only want to focus on where the gaps in my understanding are. So I'm going to follow that wrong answers pathway so that they're not having to do the whole unit again. They can look prescriptively at where it is that they have misinterpretations, misunderstandings, and gaps in their knowledge, so they can go through that wrong answers pathway. Alternatively, for those that do like to focus on the content, they can look at the notes only. So again, it fits the learning styles of your children. It also creates a global leaderboard within a particular topic. So you can see here that this is based on the history A-level course of the Tudors. I've got a global leaderboard and I am 157th within that. So you can then see that actually what we're doing, that's not just within your school community, but that's our global Seneca learning community, so that children can feel, and certainly those that it resonates with, can look to keep going back to that content to get their score as high as possible, or to answer as many questions as possible, so that they can go up those leaderboards. And just to say as well, just from a data provision standpoint, on those leaderboards, there is no pupil name that is given. We actually use a random name generator, so they can go through as many of those generations as they want to find a name that suits their personality. And so that is what is displayed. It is not Ben Clark Smith from Alton Middle School. It is an anonymous name that sits on top of it. So I'm just going to demonstrate what it looks like to complete some coursework. I'm going to look at that French course that we looked at earlier, just so you can get a sense of what the flow for a pupil is. So I'm just going to look at friends within this friends and family and introducing myself unit. As I said, typically we'll start the course content with this carousel of key vocabulary or content. Now, I've personally, for my display, I have typing speed turned off, but when they log in the first time, you'll see here that the content is dynamically created in a typing style, and that is at a speed of 1. They might be actually a little bit, they like that dynamic nature of it, but they want it to be a bit faster. You might say, however, well, what about my EAL or my SEN pupils? You can turn that typing speed off, so they're not having to take that cognitive load of processing moving text. They can sort of review it in their own time. None of the content is time-based. We do capture a learning time, but they are not on a time constraint to complete this coursework. So it really means that they should feel as comfortable and relaxed to do their very best. So I can review this carousel of content. So by clicking through the carousel, I've reviewed that content. I'm now going to click continue. So I've got here a question. So may I me? I'm going to go through these flows. So I can click for a translation if I want it. And I'm seeing more discussion. So I'm looking at that content in a natural French context. Now I can look through, and I've got a missing word here. I have a lot of friends, but I get on with my best friend. So you'll see that I'm collecting those scores. If I go through, but if I might get a question wrong, oh, let's have check. I got that one wrong. So if I go through, I'm now going to be revisiting some of that terminology on emotions. Whereas if I'd got that right, I would have seen a different question presented in front of me. I'm going to just quit that session. I'm going to jump back to the teacher profile, and I can see that as I've been talking, we've had a couple of questions coming up. I'm conscious of the time. So do you have any intention of creating functional skills? So I'm just going to drag this one across. Do you have any intention of creating functional skills maths content for the educational college? Really good question. What I would suggest is taking my email address, ben@seneca.io from earlier. Do please drop me an email with sort of the idea of what sort of content would match your pupils' needs, and I'll pass that to our content team and absolutely see if there is anything that we can support you with. Can you see which parents have signed up? A good question. That's one that I'm going to take away and look to include in future sessions, because it's an element of the platform I've not seen yet. So it's a really good question, because it is, of course, vital that you can see what that community engagement is. So thank you for that question, and it's something that I will look to answer off separately. Alternatively, if you'd like me to pick up directly with you via email, do ping me an email today whenever you've got a moment, and I'll come back and answer that as I can. Okay, let me just see. great. Good to hear that we've had some successful use of Seneca in the past. But yes, absolutely, many functional skills students. That's a really good point. I'd love to further that conversation with you regarding the maths and functional skills pupils. So do drop me an email at ben@seneca.io and we can carry on that conversation separately. So as I said, do like the video, and you can always come back to it and watch it again if there are any elements as you're looking to progress with your use that you think, okay, how do I function that part? You can come back to it. Alternatively, I'll be here at 4. Thank you so much for all your time today. Do not hesitate to get in touch, though. We love to hear from you as to how you're using the platform, how your pupils are getting on, and whether there's any content or anything else that you want to see from the system. Do let us know. It's been my pleasure talking to you today, Ben@seneca.io. Like the video, and I hope to work with you again very soon.